I will call to order the regular session of the Grande City Council and note that councilors are participating in this session by electronic means. Means we're not in the same room. Hopefully that'll change in the not too distant future. And with that, I'd ask for a roll call, please.
Steve Clemens.
Here.
Gary Lillard.
Here.
John Bozarth.
Here.
David Glade.
Here.
Nicole Howard.
Here.
Marianne Miesner.
Here.
Justin Rock.
Here.
All right. We have a quorum and all councilors present. Agenda approval, no new items, I'm assuming. And we have a consent agenda with one item, and that is to approve the regular session meetings from February 3rd, 2021. Barring any amendments, I will entertain a motion.
Move we accept the consent agenda as presented.
I have a second from Gary. All right. Roll call vote, please.
Steve Clemens.
Yes.
Gary Lillard.
Yes.
John Bozarth.
Yes.
David Glade.
Yes.
Nicole Howard.
Yes.
Marianne Miesner.
Yes.
Justin Rock.
Yes.
Motion carried.
All right. Thank you. Robert, public comments?
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. I do have a letter from the Blue Mountain Humane Association dated the 15th of February of this year. And it's addressed to the city councils of LeGrand, Cove, Elgin, Embler, North Powder, and Union. Greetings. The year 2020 saw many changes, only one of which was the dramatic change in direction of Blue Mountain Humane Association. Last February saw the departure of an executive director who was residing in the facility, effectively occupying rooms that were meant to house, examine, and take animals, as well as rooms for employee and public use. Along with his departure, there was a complete turnover in the board of directors. At the time of the turnover, there were limited funds remaining for the operation and maintenance of the facility. The new board is pleased to provide you with information along with requesting future support for your animal shelter. January 2020 through December 2020, the numbers are as follows. Animals, intake 728, which includes 197 dogs, 507 cats, and 24 other. Intake, strays, and surrenders brought into the shelter. Outcomes, 681, 184 dogs, 475 cats, and 22 other. The outcomes, 305 were adoptions, 259 were transfers to partnering rescues, 91 returned to owners, 3 dead on arrival, 26 deaths due to health issues. We remain a no-kill shelter. Spay and neuter numbers locally were 20 dogs, 52 cats, and 3 bunnies. We offer low-cost spay and neuter transport monthly, which saw 191 locals, which includes ferals, pets, and shelter cats being fixed. We're working with several groups of private citizens addressing the feral cat populations in the cities and county. We provide resources and education to residents working to trap, neuter, and release these feral cats. Our list of sites with feral cat issues continues to grow, but we have limited resources to aid some of these areas. Due to the prior director's negligence, we have had to address the feral population that was left in our own backyard, trapping, spaying, and neutering over 20 cats. Financials. Their expenses were as follows. Payroll, $90,000. Veterinary and medicine, $24,000. Utilities, $14,000. Insurance and professional services, $6,000. Animal supplies, $12,000. Other supplies, $12,000. Total, $158,000. Of the payroll, $2,700 of this was unpaid payroll taxes from the year of 2016. Please note at this time, we do not have an executive director due to lack of funds. Presently, our board has logged over 2,500 in-house volunteer hours. Our staff consists of 3 full-time and 2 part-time minimum wage employees, as well as 1 full-time below $15 an hour employee. The building is staffed 10 to 12 hours a day, 365 days a year. The veterinary and medical supplies, which includes vaccination and wormer, this number includes a $1,700 debt left from the prior director and board at a local veterinarian. $5,100 was for spay and neutering, and approximately $5,000 was for medications. Revenues: donations, $30,000, fees, $34,000, Union County and the city of La Grande, $50,000, grants and estates, $10,000, sales and liquidation of bark and basement, $10,000, non-recurring, total $134,000. Our revenue side of our fees and donations at the shelter was double which were taken in 2019. As you can see, we're not in the black yet, and without the help from communities we support, our existing funds will be exhausted in 2 years. Our local citizens have stepped up their support of the shelter. We're pleased that even during the COVID, we received over $5,000 worth of in-kind donations just in the month of December. On another matter, there has been no maintenance done in the past 10 years, and we are presently trying to find funding to repair or replace an aging boiler system and a non-operational cooler for the dog kennels. At present, only half of our dog kennels have heat, rendering the other half unusable during cold weather. The previous director remodeled several rooms in the shelter for his own personal use, and we've begun the process of wall removal and repairs to put the functionality back into these rooms, making life easier for our staff as well as animal housing. Now it is time for the local cities that we serve to pledge their annual support in order that we may continue to serve these communities. With your support, we will update you on a quarterly basis the number of animals we serve in your individual communities. We respectfully request that our information and requests be presented at your next council meeting. Feel free to contact board members should you desire further information or clarification. Any of us would be happy to arrange a time to for you to come tour our facility and meet our hardworking staff. We look forward to hearing from you soon regarding funding, and we appreciate your support as we continue to serve the citizens and animals in our area. And it's signed by the members of the board. And I provided this letter to the council by email earlier today so that you have that. And just as an informational item, the city provides $9,500 funding for Blue Mountain, and that fund goes to the county, which is included in the $50,000 figure that was mentioned in the letter. And those were the only public comments that we had, Mayor.
All right, Robert, in response to this, I would like us to have a conversation about the funding at some point soon, perhaps before the budget is finalized. The $9,500 has been fixed for the last 10 years, and we all know that expenses go up. I'd like us to reconsider how much money we're giving the shelter. I'd also like to reconsider how the money gets to the shelter.
Yeah, Mayor, if I could interrupt, please.
Yes.
I would ask that we defer that conversation till council comments as opposed to in public comments.
Okay, I can do that. I will bring that back up during
Thank
council
you.
comments. All right, and no other comments, no other public comments?
No, sir.
All right, we have no public hearings, no unfinished business. 3 items of new business, the first of which is a resolution abolishing library fines at the Cook Memorial Library. And I believe Kip Robertson is the lead on this, if he's around. There he is.
Yes, here I am. Good evening, everyone. I guess I have 2 items on the agenda tonight. And yes, the first one is the abolishing library overdue fines. Both the library and the library board advisory commission recommend that the council rescind their previous resolution that established overdue fines. And the reasoning there are several reasons to abolish the fines. The first one is that fines tend to be, they're not burdensome to those folks who can afford to pay it, but it is very burdensome to those who can't. And oftentimes those who can't afford it are the ones who most depend on the library for services. Other reasons are that a growing number of our items that circulate are digital items, which do not carry any overdue fines. So this would bring us into line with our digital items. And well, actually, those are the two main reasons. And I included in my packet to you all a report that outlined some of the other reasoning that goes into more detail about that. So I would be happy to entertain any questions that you might have.
I do have one question.
Sure.
So if they don't bring a book back, how are you going to enforce or get that book back from our inventory if it's not in there?
That's always the first question. So thank you for asking that. Anybody who borrows materials will continue to be financially responsible for the item. We currently circulate most items for 3 weeks, and those items now automatically renew for up to another 6 weeks total. After that time, if somebody has yet to return an item, they are held financially responsible. And we have a history of not really pursuing anybody who's not returned items and still owes us money. So I've met with Heather in finance, and we're putting into place a process where we would continue to, or we would now start collecting that money. There's I'll use the word collection agency, though that's not exactly what they are, but there's a firm that works specifically with libraries to either get the item returned or collect the fees that they owe the library. So we've signed a contract with that firm who would help us get our items back or get repayment from the patron if they don't have the item in their possession any longer. So there's no loss in the collection. And perhaps there will be a greater return of items to the collection now that we're actually going to start pursuing folks who haven't returned items. Did that answer your question, Justin?
Any other questions for Kip? I did want to comment on one thing, Kip, a very thorough report with lots of documentation on the rationale for this request. So thank you for that.
Sure. Our computer system that we use is not the most robust system, I guess. So it's really hard to get some of the data out of that system. So I apologize for some data that may be missing as far as numbers or financials, but I think I can draw parallels to other libraries, and I doubt that our library is that much different from other libraries. So,
all right. Any other questions for Kip? Any public comment?
I've got one, Mayor. That's
okay. Go ahead, David. Sorry.
So, Kip, I was curious. I looked at the old resolution, and it looks like there's a maximum fine that accrues per item of $5 is what it looks like the old resolution had in there.
yes.
Now we're talking about potentially charging them after 60 days for the entire return of the item, or sending a collections agency after them to try to retrieve the item. Is that correct? What impact does that potentially have on the credit scores of individuals who do not pay that item?
My understanding, and we used this same firm when I worked for the Seattle Public Library, I guess there was an overhaul of credit reporting laws not too many years ago that it doesn't have a direct impact. Library fines and fees don't have a direct impact on someone's credit report more than like 1 point, I believe, is what the firm told me. So it's not a true collection agency, and it's not going to truly affect and ruin someone's credit.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, I know I'd heard things about, library fines being an issue with credit scores in the past. I just wanted to make sure that we're not going to trade, a $5 thing for something that might be a little bit worse in the long run.
And Heather and I discussed, and we still haven't settled on a dollar amount. The average cost of a lost item, or the lowest price of a lost item, is around $15. So Heather and I discussed possibly starting collection when the patron owes $15. The unique management systems recommends $25. So it's considerably higher than the $5 before someone is even pursued. So
Kip, from what I read, I believe I read this, that if they don't return an item at all, would they still be able to borrow books, or are you going to block them at that point?
They would be blocked. So once they lose effectively one item and the $15, they can no longer borrow from the library until they either return the item or pay for the lost item.
And you said most of these charges come from children?
Children or the parents of children. When they come in, a lot of the overdue fines specifically would be somebody would easily be blocked at the current $5 because they might check out, a stack of 30 picture books, and at 10 cents a day, it doesn't take long for someone to get into a lot of trouble.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
All right, this is a side note. I have remembered to open up the participant list so that if you raise your hand there, I will see it. I had forgotten to do that at the last meeting and didn't see a number of hands that went up. So hopefully I've got this set up now this time. Any public comments, Kip or Robert? No.
No.
Council discussion. A motion?
I move that the proposed resolution abolishing fines for overdue library materials be read by title only, put to a vote, and passed.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion from Marianne, a second from Nicole. Additional comments? If not, could I have a reading of the proposed resolution by title only?
A resolution of the City Council of the City of LeGrande, Union County, Oregon, abolishing the imposition of monetary fines by F. Maxine and Thomas W. Cook Memorial Library for overdue items, establishing policies for lost, damaged, and unreturned materials, including cost recovery, repealing Resolution 4451, Series 2004, and all other resolutions or parts of resolutions in conflict herewith, and declaring an effective date.
All right, we've got a motion, a second, and a reading of the resolution title. Could I have a roll call vote, please?
Steve Clemens,
Yes.
Gary Lillard,
Yes.
John Bozart,
No.
David Glade,
Yes.
Nicole Howard,
Yes.
Marianne Miesner,
Yes.
Justin Rock.
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right, thank you very much. The second item of new business is a resolution to establish a non-resident membership fee. And I will add that this non-resident membership fee would be for premium library services, which I assume Kip will talk about. So I'll turn it over to him.
Okay, you get me for one more topic. Yes, I'm proposing, and on behalf of the advisory commission, that we establish a non-resident library membership options for patrons who reside outside the city limits of LeGrande. Currently, LeGrande resident pays per capita about $50 in taxes for library services. And so they get access to everything that we have in the building here, and all of our electronic services, which since just before COVID, we've expanded quite a bit. So you can now stream movies and TV shows. We have a lot more ebooks and e-audio books available to our patrons. And so those are the sort of things that I'm referring to as premium services. Also, our hotspots that we circulate, and our laptops paired with hotspots that we circulate. I feel like all of us feel like that our local residents should be able to access those for free, but they're also paying for those. So why should someone who lives outside of Le Grande get those services for very little money? And a little background on that, the county provides the city for $40,000 annually to provide library services to those folks in Union County who don't get service from a library. So anybody who doesn't live in Union, Elgin, North Powder, or La Grande, the county pays approximately, it comes out to just under $5 per capita. So those folks are getting currently access to all of these premium services for $5, where a resident in La Grande is paying $50. So we'd like to sort of make that a fairer platform for everybody to get library services. I spoke with the county, and they said that their intent is only to provide basic library services. So we would continue to do that. That would be someone could come in and check out a book or a DVD. They could use the computer. They could attend a story time. They just wouldn't be able to get access to streaming movies or the additional ebooks that we've added to our collection. And we're always adding new things. So they would have to pay to get access to those new things as well. And the county agreed that that was okay to do. So I should also add that the county also pays funds to those other 3 libraries that I mentioned. They in total get $20,000 between those 3 libraries from the county. And those libraries are also providing, and they don't have any premium services. So a patron who goes to those libraries can get a card at those libraries and access the same things that we're saying we would allow them if they didn't pay to get a card here. So anyway, that's the overview. And in the report that I outlined, several membership options, starting at $50 a year for an individual. We have a lot of, especially in the summer, a lot of temporary residents who might be here for a month or so, and they want library service. So we've come up with a 1-month membership option and a 6-month membership option in addition to the 12 months. And then because we have a lot of families who use the library, I modeled another option after what Baker does for their non-resident families. And that's $100 for essentially 3 household members to have a membership. So it's buy 2, get 1 free, I guess. So I think that's in a nutshell what we're asking. So I'd entertain any questions.
I've got a couple of questions. I don't see a hand up, so I'm going to jump in. It's just a clarification. I think you answered it on the multiple household, $100 a year. That's for 2. That's for 2 access pieces, is what you're saying. Not
it would be for 3 total,
Okay.
1 person and 2 additional
Okay.
members of the household.
Okay, that's that.
So they're sort of getting a bargain, I guess.
Yes.
Still.
Okay. And then it says, if a resident, and this is under the options. So if a resident of Union County, not Elgin, LeGrand, North Powder, or Union, which I'm assuming you're saying those are the communities that have libraries.
Correct.
Although I think there's a small volunteer library in Cove, but I don't know that gets any kind of funding.
It's all volunteer, and it's not recognized by the state in any way as a real library,
Okay.
quote unquote.
So, and anybody who comes from Embler, Somerville, Cove, Island City, or any incorporated area, or any unincorporated area in the county would have to buy that into that program.
If they wanted access to the premium services, if they wanted access to Hoopla for streaming movies or Canopy for movies, they would have to pay. Otherwise, we'll honor the contribution from the county to provide basic service. So somebody in Cove could still come to the library and borrow books or a DVD, or come to the story times that we have, or whatever. They wouldn't see a big difference unless they're a really heavy user of online services.
Okay. And last question I have is related to the changeover, because it sounded like what you were going to do is change the ID or the library card. Do you anticipate any kind of expense with that? And if so, can you give me a rough estimate?
The only cost would be the purchase of a new library card with a unique barcode prefix on it. So maybe I haven't looked at the price of what we pay for library cards, but I would guess maybe $200 or so for an initial, like 100 cards or whatever it is.
Okay.
Usually card replacement is $1, so the card probably costs somewhat less than $1. Okay. So.
And would they be paying the $1 replacement card, or is you just go ahead and give that to them?
We would just go ahead, and that would be part of, like anybody else who gets a free library, the physical card, they get one when they come in and sign up.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Any other questions for Kip on this item? Marianne, go ahead.
Oh, there she is.
So Kip, if I currently have a card but it's old, can I just come in then and get the new card when it comes in?
Oh, well, you live in LeGrand, so we already have cards. You can come in and get a new card now.
Okay. So I don't have to get a different card then?
No, it would only be for the county residents outside of LeGrand.
Okay, thank you.
Uh-huh.
David, I see your hand is up.
Yep, might I suggest that we make that household membership a household membership instead of limiting it to 3 individuals? And maybe this is just me because my wife and I have 5 kids, but we do have some bigger households here in LeGrand, and I think I might be in favor of just, instead of saying, hey, that 100 for 2 additional, maybe 100 or a little over 100 for an entire household.
I went back and forth on that. I'm not wed to this. It was just modeled after a neighboring library system. So I'm open to whatever the council believes is, and I'm sure the advisory commission would be too.
So maybe the nuance there is for households of 3 or more, you would set a $100 fee. Does that sound reasonable? I mean, otherwise, you don't want to charge $100 for an elderly couple that wants to do it, right? You probably want, I don't know. What do you, since you went up around and around with this one, Kip, maybe you have some, you can shed some light on your thought process.
Well, I was landing initially where David was, that if you're a household of more than 2 people, it wouldn't matter how many were in the household. As long as they lived at the same address, they could all have a card. So you get past the 2 at $50 a head, essentially. Anybody more than that, as long as they have the same address, is the other side that I was looking at.
Okay. I think that's a reasonable thing to do, and I suppose when we pass a motion that we mention that amendment, or I think that's what we would have to do. So, Mary Ann, I see you're unmuted.
Is there a senior rate?
I didn't come across anybody that offered that. I mean, we're not giving our local seniors a break. I mean, they're paying in their taxes the same amount. So I'm not sure that seniors outside of town deserve a break if our local ones aren't.
Okay.
Any other questions for Kip?
And I've had several, I should add, I've had a couple of seniors who say that they're more than happy to pay to join.
Okay.
I don't know what their means are, but you know, that comes into play too.
Okay. Any public comment on public testimony, Robert? No, he's shaking his head. Kip? Okay.
No.
Council discussion or a motion?
Well, I was looking at the resolution, I mean, the motion, and should it say the premier services up there in the motion?
That seems like it should, yeah.
I don't think it needs to because there'll be a reading of the resolution.
Okay, and the resolution says that?
The resolution sets all the parameters.
Okay, thank you. Then I move that proposed resolution establishing non-resident library membership options be read by title. Oh, wait, I needed to change that because it has to be amended one. I move that the amended proposed resolution establishing non-resident library membership options be read by title only, put to a vote and passed.
Second.
And
Right.
just to clarify, the amendment will be in the $100 membership, which is valid for 12 months, that allows to households with 3 or more members. Or I guess it would be 2 or more members, period.
Do we want to say living at the same address?
Yes, we'll keep that part, of course.
Okay.
Yep. Okay. Thank you for that. No additional comments or discussion? If not, could I have a reading of the proposed resolution by title only?
A resolution of the City Council of the City of LaGrande, Union County, Oregon, establishing non-resident membership fees for the F. Maxine and Thomas W. Cook Memorial Library and declaring an effective date.
All right, we've got a motion, a second, and a reading of the resolution by title. Ask for a roll call vote, please.
Steve Clemens,
Yes?
Gary Lillard,
Yes.
John Bozart,
Yes.
David Glade,
Yes.
Nicole Howard,
Yes.
Mary Ann Meisner,
Yes.
Justin Rock.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, thank you. The third item of new business is a resolution for the 2019 citywide voluntary local improvement district number 19-064. And this is for sidewalk repair. And I think, Kyle, this is yours.
That's me. Mr. Mayor and councilors, this council action form is for the considering the acceptance of the final study and report by staff for the sidewalk LID program. So this LID that we are reporting on was open during the 2019 year. These are actually run by calendar year, not budget year. So don't get those confused. So this was opened in January 2019. At the end of January 2019, we had actually only had 2 participants. With a grand total of around $8,000. With the time it takes for staff to actually close out one of these, start a new one, and everything else, we decided to just let it roll another year to get the other people on. After running for 2 years, we're over $20,000, which is a fairly significant amount for reporting. So we're going to close this one. There will be 2 future meetings where we'll have hearings to adopt the attached ordinance along with the assessments for these LIDs, and those will be the following 2 meetings. And then we'll open a new one so the program's still available for people to LID sidewalk repairs throughout the city. So if you have any questions, feel free to shoot away.
Questions for Kyle? This is one of those things that we just kind of move through. It's a nice system for people to be able to cover the expense of their sidewalk repairs. So, any public testimony, Robert or Kyle, on this item? All right. Council discussion or a motion? Do I have a motion?
I'll move that the final study and report for the 2019 citywide voluntary sidewalk LID number 19064 be accepted, and that the proposed resolution establishing a public hearing date be read by title only, put to a vote, and passed.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any additional discussion or conversation? If not, could I have a reading of the resolution by title only, please?
A resolution of the City Council of the City of LaGrande, Union County, Oregon, establishing a public hearing date for citywide voluntary sidewalk local improvement district number 19-064.
All right, we've got a motion, a second, and a reading of the resolution by title. I'll have a roll call vote, please.
Steve Clemens,
Yes?
Gary Lillard,
Yes.
John Bozart,
Yes.
David Glade,
Yes.
Nicole Howard,
Yes.
Marianne Musner,
Yes.
Justin Rock.
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right, thank you. The fourth and final item of new business is an appointment to the appointing a citizen to the Landmarks Advisory Commission. And very briefly, the Landmarks Commission is empowered by the City Council and charged with reviewing projects within the downtown historic district and those involving historic landmarks and determining whether those projects are historically appropriate. This is a 5-member commission with 1 vacancy that is due to expire soon. And let's see, the vacancy is for the remainder of a 3-year term to expire December 31st, 2023. We have 1 applicant for that position. I move that Lindsay Costigan be appointed to the Landmarks Commission for the remainder of a 3-year term expiring December 31st, 2023. Need a second on that?
Second.
Right. So Mary Ann, second. Any comments or discussion? If not, I'll ask for a roll call vote, please.
Steve Clemens,
Yes?
Gary Lillard,
Yes.
John Bozart,
Yes.
David Glade,
Yes.
Nicole Howard,
Yes.
Marianne Musner,
Yes.
Justin Rock.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Excellent. Thank you. Staff comments. I see a number of staff members here. Anyone want to comment? All right. City manager. Oh, I see Stu.
All
Just-
right. Sorry. Hi, how are you?
I'm good.
I'm just reporting that the pool is open. We opened Monday, and because it's a moderate level, and I just want to report that the pool's super safe. We have it set up. Teresa has it set up perfectly and safely. I think the biggest challenge is the swim club keeping distance, just because they're kids. We are requiring masks when they're not in the pool. Even the club kids are putting them on in between, and it's going really good. We've got a good turnout of seniors and kids and families, and so we're open Tuesday and Thursday afternoons for family rec swim and Friday evenings for family rec swim, and the rest of the time is just your lap swim times and your senior exercise class Monday through Friday. So not open on Saturday yet. No swim lessons until April, but we're getting close with the pool. And the other thing is that we are going to start Pee Wee soccer with some obvious restrictions and protocols, but Pee Wee soccer is allowed. Those are 4, 5, 6-year-olds, and it should be highly entertaining.
You're locked up, Stu. Okay, you're back.
Okay. Anyway, Benton Park is the home to Pee Wee soccer on Saturdays, April, if you want to get entertained, but stay in your car because we're trying to limit people. Anyway, that's all I have. Just some happy updates.
Thank you. Those are good updates. I'm pleased to hear all of that. Also pleased to hear that the library is open for patron access, and City Hall has limited access this week. So we're gradually getting back to some sense of normality. Any other staff comments? City manager comments?
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, just two things. The first is, as you mentioned, City Hall is open. We do have the floor set out with the 6-foot spacing, and we're doing one-way traffic through. Press release went out this afternoon, but we did open up this morning, so it's normal, 8 to 5 hours, masks required, and we're still accepting payments over the phone, and we're expecting a lot of people will continue to take advantage of the online and over the phone options for paying things, which has been really a great advantage to be able to do during COVID. We think we'll just continue that service to the community going forward. The other thing that I wanted to talk to the council about, I had sent out to you in advance some information about including a hiring bonus as part of the recruitment for experienced officers to fill vacancies in the PD. And because the incentive is in cash, it's a topic of mandatory bargaining, so the council and the association would have to agree to a memorandum of understanding, memorandum of agreement, which we will bring to you in April for a formal decision. But I did want to get your concurrence to go ahead and advertise for the vacancies that we have and are anticipating, and include information about that hiring bonus. From a financial perspective, it's a total of $6,000 over a 30-month period. So there's a $2,000 initial piece. There's another $2,000 after they finish their first year probation, get released. And then at the 30-month point of continuous satisfactory service, they would get the last installment. We're seeing more of these in jurisdictions as a way to try to attract more senior officers. And to kind of put in perspective for us, we had 4 departures from the department last year. That was 114 years of experience that walked out the door. We have 4 anticipated departures this year. That's 66 years of experience walking out the door. If we don't count the chief and the lieutenant, our current staff at the police department has a total of 116 hours. So over a 2-year period, we're losing about 50 more years of experience than we have in the building. And anything that we can do to try to bring in some quality laterals that we don't have to send to the academy is a win for us. And quite frankly, not having to send someone to the academy and pay them for that education, the amount of the bonus of what we pay them in salary for that time, not having to do that literally will pay for itself. And so I just want to see if anybody had any questions or had any issues with us doing that, and we'll bring it to you in April for a formal decision on the memorandum of understanding and memorandum of agreement, because we do have to do that. I just didn't want to get that put together, and I don't want to advertise without kind of running it past you. And really it was a resignation that came in just in the last several days that really put this at the forefront. And we've been talking about this internally for a little while because of concerns about how do we attract and retain folks. And so I think Chief Bell did a really good job of researching and came up with a pretty good strategy to try to help us to hopefully attract a lateral. I don't know if we'll ever use it, quite frankly. If we look at our last 3 hires, only one of the 3 would have even qualified for this. But I think anything that we can do to try to get quality laterals in, we should try to do that.
So Gary, I see you're unmuted. Question for Robert?
Yeah, I think maybe he already answered it. I was just, you're looking at advertising this before it's approved formally by the council. You're just looking for a consensus tonight.
Yeah, because we really need to get the job posting out there. And I did not feel comfortable, putting together an MOU and bringing it to you for a decision tonight. And then if the council were to say, no, we're not going to do this, then we would just amend the posting. But I just don't want to lose 3 weeks of advertising time. John?
Yeah, do you think that's enough? $6,000. I mean, the way you're spreading it out, 2,000, 2,000, and 2,000 after 30 months, is that a big enough incentive to attract anybody?
We think so. It's pretty similar to what we're seeing in other jurisdictions. And, part of the balance, quite frankly, is we recognize that, that we have hired people, over the past, few years that if this was in place would have qualified for it. So we're a little bit sensitive to doing this given the current staff. But I think everybody kind of recognizes, where we are with experience in the department walking out the door. It's just kind of a cyclical thing.
Any other comments? I think this is a reasonable idea. Even though we really haven't had anybody eligible for it, except for one officer, maybe more people will be eligible for it if we have this out there. If we have a shortage of, or if we're losing officers after we've trained them, this might be a good way to bring in trained officers that are looking for a lateral promotion or just maybe, and I don't mean to say this, I think we're fortunate that we live in a fairly calm community. Chief, I'm hoping that you agree with me on that. And we're really lucky, and maybe there are officers out there that are coming from a more active area that want something a little more quiet, and this incentive might be the way to bring them in. I don't know the psychology of this. I don't know the professional sphere of this. But Robert, I don't know what you need from us. Do you need a head nod, or you just want to go ahead?
I'll just go ahead and advertise with the incentive, and we'll bring it to you based on the feedback.
Okay, very good.
Thank you.
Anything else?
No, sir.
Okay. Council comments. I'm gonna go first, and then I'll open it up to everyone else. I wanted to let you know. Let me make sure I get my little notes here. I have been asked by the superintendent of the LaGrande School District to participate on a facilities study committee. There are a number of people out there. The school district received a planning grant to look at an assessment of all the district facilities, and they've got a report, I believe, and then this group would meet to review the report and then make recommendations to the school board for any potential changes. I had a meeting with George Mendoza and Robin Maley, who is chair of the school board, and sounds like a pretty interesting meeting, interesting committee. There are 4 meetings, March, April, May, and June, and then we would deliver our final report to the school district. But I wanted to let you know that I've been invited to participate and that I will that I've agreed to do that. I want to go back, if you will, to the request from Humane Association. I understand that there is an agreement in place between the city and the county that is up for renewal or review in 2023. I still think that there's room for us to discuss the funding level. $9,500 for this last 10 years. If we look at a simple cost of inflation, about 2% a year, I think is a reasonable amount. For 10 years, the amount should be about $11,500. So with the budget coming up, I don't know how to proceed with that, Robert, but I'm assuming we need to have some type, I would like to have some type of conversation about it. I would also eventually, and I don't know whether there's a room in the agreement with the county to reconsider how that money is paid. I don't, if the city is giving the shelter $9,500, we should be giving the shelter $9,500, not giving the county $9,500 so that they reduce the amount that they have to pay to the shelter, right? Because right now,
if I could interject, when the city used to provide the funding directly to the animal shelter, we had an agreement in place with them that outlined certain requirements for reporting in a number of items. And some of you will recall that agreement had expired, and we wanted to renew that agreement. That was around the same time frame that there were ongoing discussions between the county and the shelter related to housing of the dogs that were collected by animal control. And there was a several months long dispute that was occurring between the county and the leadership of the Humane Association at that time. And the council's decision was that we would not provide the funding until they entered into a new agreement, and also that they resolved the issue with the county, because there was, the council felt very strongly that if the shelter stopped accepting animals from the county through the animal control, and they do it for Grande as well, that we shouldn't be providing the funding. It really needed to be resolved. And ultimately, the county entered into an agreement, and as part of that discussion, we talked with the county about there being only a single agreement between the county and BMHA, and that the city's dollars would be added to what the county was able to pay them, and that those dollars would be passed through, but not to have two separate agreements, where essentially you have the function is the same that they're providing, but then they have potentially two standards, two reporting requirements related to the funding. And so I think that it works really well to have a single agreement, and for all of the funds to be tied to the performance of that agreement and one entity that's responsible for that. I do think that a conversation with the county commissioners about what the terms of those agreements are, and to firm up what the city's intent is regarding ongoing funding, because the county, quite frankly, is at a bit of a disadvantage in that we're not a party to that agreement. And if the city council or the budget committee were to determine not to provide that funding, the county's agreement requires them to pay $50,000 a year, and they're relying on that $9,500 as part of that payment. And I think that, to your point, Mayor, if the city were going to increase the amount of funding, we would want to make sure that that is not supplanted with county dollars. And so I think it's a larger discussion of what the mechanics, and the agreement expires at the end of 2022 fiscal year. So we're the time to have that dialogue, I think, is, as we're moving forward right about now with the county. In terms of how would we go about addressing the dollar amount, that would be part of the budgeting process, and ultimately the budget committee and the council will make a decision what that dollar amount would be. What I have shared with the county is that I'm not anticipating that the city council would reduce that funding, which is normally the concern that people have, that we would be status quo. So that's the background piece that I thought was kind of important to share.
Okay. I think it's also important to know that at the time all of that was going on, the executive director of the animal shelter was not very good. And he Nicole is shaking her head because I'm trying to be tactful here. The guy was a loser, and he caused the problems that resulted in the agreements, and he's gone. And when he left, he took a substantial,
Mayor, if I could interrupt, I would really ask that we not go down this road, please.
Okay. I'm asking that we have.
I'm just talking about the discussion about the past employees and all that. I really don't think is something that we as a city should have a discussion about.
Okay. It is. The
point that there's new leadership there and things are different now, I think is an important point.
Yes.
And what's the correct thing going forward, I think should be the focus.
Okay. There's new leadership. I think we need to reconsider how much we're giving to the shelter. I also think we need to reconsider the relationship in terms of how the money passes through the county to the shelter. That's at some point. Guys, see Gary, you're unmuted. So
yeah, I needed a little clarification on the total amount being provided. If I'm remembering correctly, way back in the day, and this was prior to some of the troubles they had, we were providing X amount, the 9,500, I guess, and the county was providing, I believe, the 50,000. But if they're using our donation to flesh out that 50,000, then really they're only providing 40,500. Am I understanding that correctly?
They're providing 40,500 and an additional 9,500 that's passed through from us. I can't speak to what the level of the financial support that the county was giving prior to the agreement. I don't know. I don't know if it was 40,000 or if it was 50. I just don't know what that was. Ours was 10,000 for a while, and then we cut it back to 9,500.
Yeah, I think that's one more question that we would need to include in consideration, because if our contribution to the county is actually resulting in a reduction of the amount they contribute to the shelter, I guess I don't see that as helpful. Not to the shelter, certainly.
Right.
okay, that's all I have. And I'll go. I've rearranged people on the screen. So, Marianne, do you have any comments?
Actually, I don't.
Okay, Justin.
No, I'm good this evening. Thank you, Steve.
All right, John.
No, Steve, I'm okay.
Okay, Gary.
I'm good.
John, David. And Nicole.
No, I'm okay tonight.
Okay. So at this point, I'm adjourning the regular session of City Council. And we are scheduled to begin a regular session of the Urban Renewal Agency. Do I need to pause at any point in here, Brent, or do we just kind of smoothly move into the next meeting?
No, just go ahead and start the new one clearly.
All right. I'm going to shuffle some paper around here. All right, then I call to order the regular session of the Urban Renewal Agency, and note that the agency members are participating in this session by electronic means, and ask for a roll call for the
Steve
meeting.
Clemens,
Here.
Gary Lillard,
Here.
John Bozarth,
Here.
David Glade,
Here.
Nicole Howard,
Here.
Marianne Wiesner,
Here.
Justin Rock.
Here.
All right, we've got a roll call. Agenda is approved. We have a consent agenda, which includes one item, and that is the approval of the special session minutes from, wow, way back in September 2nd, 2020. Is that something we forgot, or was that the last time we had an Urban Renewal Agency meeting?
Last time there's been any business for the Urban Renewal Agency.
Okay, well, we have that item as consent agenda. I need a motion.
I move we accept the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
All right, we've got a motion and a second. Can I have a roll call vote, please?
Steve Clemens,
Yes.
Gary Lillard,
Yes.
John Bozarth.
Abstain. I wasn't on the council at that time.
Okay. David Glade,
Yes.
Nicole Howard,
Yes.
Marianne Wiesner,
Yes.
Justin Rock.
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right, then. Time for public comments. I noticed here that we have something from an update from the Brickyard Lanes, and Darren is here. Robert, do you have something you want to do here, or?
Sure, thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the agency. I think it was during the retreat, or it may have been at your first wouldn't have been at your first agency meeting, because this is of the year. But the discussion was asking for an update on the status of the bowling alley, kind of how things are going, what's going on. I know you get questions about, what's going on, and I thought this would be a good opportunity to kind of see where things stand. And I reached out to Darren, and he was happy to come this evening and let you know kind of where things stand. So the agency does have a vested interest in the project. We provided funding at the very beginning, and we still have, I think, about $40,000 of urban renewal funding that's in play for when the project is ultimately completed. So with that, I'd like to just go ahead and turn it over to Darren, and he can share with you what's going on.
Right, Darren, take it over.
Okay, well, that's something I get asked nearly every day, is when is the bowling alley gonna open? And I honestly wish I had the answer. We've had a series of, events that have happened along the way, and long story short, our subcontractor that was hired to finish out the job was funded in April of 2019, fully funded to complete the job. He was supposed to be done in 60 days. So at that point, we were assuming we'd be open by July of 2019. After the contractor got the money, he kind of was, he was not around. He took off, he was on other job sites. He always had excuses why he couldn't come to our project and finish it. So eventually he did come around. December of 19, roughly, he showed up finally to finish the job. Shortly after that, he claimed to be out of money for the project, and gave me a bunch of bogus numbers on where all the money went. And so we kind of got stuck. Shortly after that, COVID set in. So we've been frantically trying to get additional funding, additional financing along the way to finish this out. We need about another 150 to 200,000, around 200,000 if you figure inventory and some payroll for the first month for employees. So we kind of got stuck. There's no COVID relief for us because we're not an actual business yet, so we're not open for business. So we don't have any COVID relief. And we've been working on some additional financing for a little over 6 months now. It hasn't come through. We're hopeful it will be there shortly. But once we get funding, we'll be open in 60 days. That's what I can tell people. And so it's kind of been a rough series of events, but that's where we're at. You know, we do have the 40,000 coming from the city, which will be great once we get to that point. You know, we've invested roughly $1.8 million into the project so far. So we need a little bit more, and we'll finally get the doors open. You know, I'd love for you guys to come down. Anyone who wants to come and check out the place. I mean, we've done some amazing work down there. We're really close. We need to just, you know, upfit a kitchen, and this part of the deal the guy didn't show up with and didn't finish was the scoring system. So we got to come up with a 50 some odd thousand for our point of sale scoring system that he never installed. So at some point we hope to recoup some of that back from the guy somehow, some way, you know, but that's another process that, you know, we don't even have the energy or the funds to pursue at this moment either. So our backs are against the wall. We're just trying to get open, you know, and hopefully then once we get there, the state allows us to open. So I believe bowling alleys are reopening, so that would be a good thing. And that's about all I got. That's where we're at.
All right. Thank you, Darren. I see Gary Lillard has, I don't know whether you can see us, so I'll just tell you who's asking questions. So Gary Lillard has a question, it looks like.
Yeah, Darren, I was just curious as to whether any of the funds provided to subcontractor were urban renewal funds.
No, urban renewal funds went to the completion of the roof that we did. That was in the very beginning, and just we got another small amount somewhere along the way. I think 30,000 went to the roof at the time, and an additional 10,000 went to, I'm not sure what, but it did not go to that guy.
And the remaining 40 due to you upon.
He came onto the project later. He wasn't on the project in the beginning. He came on in the last couple of years.
Right.
So he wasn't involved early on.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Darren? Darren, thank you for the update. I'm sorry to hear all of the problems that you had going along the line, and I'm hopeful that that things will turn around quickly for you, and we can have a bowling alley again.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah.
Okay. All right. No other public comments, Robert? Okay.
I think you got another question for Darren, I think.
Okay, go ahead. Who was the question? John?
Yeah, I had my hand up. You know, he indicated that he'd like to see us come down and look at the project. And I was just wondering if, Darren, if there are certain times that we could get the council together and take a tour. I think it'd be very valuable, you know, to the council to actually see what you've completed down there and what kind of project you have.
Sure. You know, I'm live in town now, so anytime that's convenient for all of you, I mean, just let me know and I can make arrangements. The door's usually locked. I've been in there working by myself most of the time. So, but you know, if someone knocks on the door or lets me know they're on their way, I'll be more than glad to let somebody in and, you know, take a look around and see where we're at.
Okay. Thanks for that question, John. Also, thank you, Darren. Go ahead, John.
Yeah, Steve, maybe you'll follow up on that and see if we can't get the council on a tour down there.
Sure, I can.
At sometime in the near future, hopefully.
Yep, I'll if Darren, you can give me an email or communicate with Robert, and then I'll connect with you, and we'll set up something so that we can all get down there and either in groups of threes or the whole council at the same time, depending on what's.
I think if the intent is for the entire agency to go, we'll need to set it up as a notice special meeting, work session.
Okay. Yeah, because if we're all together, then we have a quorum and that.
Yeah, and I think even if you're not going as a quorum, if we end up with 4 or more that want to go do a tour, for transparency's sake, since there's urban renewal dollars in this project, we would want to make sure that we noticed it as at a specific time that it's going to occur. So
Okay.
we can certainly coordinate that. And I guess my kind of question to the agency as a group is, anybody not want to participate? I don't see anybody shaking their head, so we'll go ahead and.
Nicole, I just saw you.
It just depends on when it is with
Right.
teaching and whatever. It just depends.
Okay.
Robert, is that something we could, and Darren, is that something we could do on a Saturday morning?
Sure. Yeah, I'm flexible whenever, whenever something would work out for everyone, that'd be great. I mean, I could do it on a weekend or an evening or whatever. Yeah.
Okay. Good. Thank you for that.
We'll try to get some. We'll try to get something coordinated.
Okay, Mary.
Okay.
I was just gonna say, I really would like to go through the bowling alley and go down there, because I really would like to see that the business open up as soon as it can be.
Okay. Thank you, Robert. Also, again, thank you, Darren. I appreciate your time this evening.
Thank you.
All right, moving on then. We had no additional public comments, no public hearing, no unfinished business. 2 items of new business. The first item is a revision of the traded sector grant program policy. Robert, that's yours.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the agency. This is just a housekeeping thing that we did not plug in. This was something that the agency supported doing, which is to allow for this funding eligibility to extend to a business that would be relocating from within Union County. There are a couple of other housekeeping pieces in there. One related to when the clawback provision is on property sale. The original policy was 5 years after first disbursement of funds, and now it's 5 years after completion, which mirrors the call for projects. And so really all we're doing is making sure that businesses inside Union County would be able to, if they meet all of the criteria, apply for this grant, and then it would be an agency decision as to whether or not to award. I'd be happy to answer whatever questions you may have.
So Robert, just, I guess this is protocol or process. I had a few things in reading through, and it's been a while since I've read through the policy, so I took that opportunity to do so. And there are a couple of areas that are not necessarily related to the changes that we talked about. Is it appropriate to bring those up, or should we just stick to the ones that we were talking about?
Yeah, if anything that's in the proposed change, it's really only a couple. I think my suggestion, Mayor, would be, if we want to get into a discussion of policy revisions, I would like to hold off on doing that. Let's just minor happy to glad stuff, because there has been discussion by the agency about whether or not we want to continue to offer this incentive or not.
Okay.
And I really was not intending to have this be a discussion at that level.
Okay.
So depending upon what the nature of the revisions are, anything that's a significant shift in the direction of the policy, I think would be a little bit beyond the scope of what we were kind of intending.
All right. So then relative to that, and this is top of page 6, item number 8. Real property related to the project may not be transferred or sold within 5 years from the date of the project completion and final disbursement of funds. Only question I have there is, if that happens and we ask for the money back, is there no interest associated with this thing with the money being given as a loan versus being given as a grant? So there's no interest element to that.
There is not, and we don't have one under the call for projects either.
Okay.
And I think it's a legal question as to whether or not we would be able to assign interest, because this truly is intended as a grant, not a loan that can be converted to a grant.
Okay.
And I think it's just cleaner. It's just, if you sell the property, you have to write us a check, and not to get into the whole interest piece. It's really designed to stop people from flipping properties.
Okay.
Mary
Mary Ann.
Ann?
Yeah, I was looking at this would be on page 2, at number 5, number 3 section. And it says the project must represent an expansion or relocation of a business that is considered not
Yeah.
located in Union County. You just said up above that we took that out. So I think that needs to come out there too.
Yeah,
Which
that's
number-
what I was looking
which number,
at.
Mary Ann?
Mary Ann, thank you.
Pardon me, Robert, I didn't understand.
Which subparagraph?
Number 5, number 3, under number 5, there's section number 3 underneath it, subsection.
Oh, thank you.
Okay.
Yep, that was one that I had circled as well. So I think that was a typo. He probably didn't catch that one as I went through.
Yeah, good catch. Thank you.
Yes. Any other comments?
Mayor, may I?
Go ahead.
So, and maybe I'll just back up a step, but I mean, as I look at what we're trying to accomplish out in the business park, I guess I wonder, I mean, aren't we trying to attract new businesses, which would be businesses coming from outside of Union County? And I'm wondering why we would want to make this change, because I don't see a business relocating from, within La Grande or over from Island City or Elgin, really contributing a tremendous amount to our local economy. Certainly not nearly as much as a business coming from outside of Union County. So, I mean, I'm just kind of curious to hear thoughts on why this change would be necessary.
Sure. And I can give you a great example. One of the more successful, if not most successful businesses that we had in Union County in terms of a growing traded sector business was muzzleloader.com. And we were in negotiations with them to locate out at the business park. They were going to come out of Bearco and move over there. One of the co-owners, who was the driving force behind that business, as we were in negotiations, was tragically killed in a snowmobiling accident. And so you had a very successful and growing business, traded sector, located right over, right here in our backyard, that needed a new home. And the business park was the perfect location for them. This policy, as it's currently written, would not have allowed us to leverage that $200,000 to retain that business in Union County, because they were going to go somewhere. And that was really a lot of the impetus for making that change. And so it's as much a retention piece for those businesses in Union County. And again, it's a sizable investment. It has to be traded sector to do it. So it's fairly narrow. And then if they don't meet that criteria, they can always apply for the lesser call for projects out there. But the discussion with the agency was, we would hate to lose a business, traded sector business, that could go into the business park just because they were here.
Thanks, Robert. I appreciate that explanation.
Anybody else? All right. No testimony, no public testimony on this, Robert?
No.
Agency discussion, conversation? Otherwise, I'll invite a motion. Anybody?
I move that the trade sector grant policy be updated as presented.
Could you change that to amended, please?
As amended, sorry, yeah, I meant to do that.
Thank you, Mary Ann.
We have a motion from Mary Ann, and is that a second from you, Gary?
Yes.
Okay. Any other conversation, discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Steve Clemens,
Yes.
Gary Lillard,
Yes.
John Bozarth,
Yes.
David Glade,
Yes.
Nicole Howard,
Yes.
Mary Ann Meisner,
Yes.
Justin Rock.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item of new business is adopting the district manager's top priorities for fiscal year 21-22. Just as a note, these are the priorities that we established during the agency /council retreats at the end of January. Robert, it's up to you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the agency. Again, the goals and priorities have already been adopted by the city council and were set following the retreat. Also included is the summary of the retreat that was provided to the agency right after the retreat. And the only reason that we're doing this in March is because the agency hasn't met until now. And so this is, pretty much just a housekeeping thing. We're operating under these, and we've already had some work sessions we had that came out of the retreat that were part of what we talked about there. So,
Okay.
Whatever questions you might have.
Questions for Robert, Mary Ann?
No, I didn't. I'm sorry.
Okay. Anyone? Questions for Robert? All right. Then make sure I'm on the right page. Give me a second. No questions, no discussion, a motion.
I move that the city district manager's top priorities for fiscal year 2021-2022, as discussed during the annual agency retreat on January 25th, 2021, and outlined on the attached urban renewal agency retreat goals and priorities summary be adopted as presented.
Second.
All right, we have a motion from Mary Ann and a second from Nicole. Any other comments before I call for vote? Roll call vote, please.
Steve Clemens,
Yes.
Gary Lillard,
Yes.
John Bozarth,
Yes.
David Glade,
Yes.
Nicole Howard,
Yes.
Mary Ann Meisner,
Yes.
Justin Rock.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. District manager comments.
I'm good. We'll just get a bowling alley walkthrough set up. But other than that, nothing.
Okay, thank you. Agency members, Mary Ann, Justin, John,
Good.
Gary,
I'm good.
David, Nicole, and I have nothing. I'll adjourn our meeting for this evening and wish you all a good week. Thank you all. Thanks.
Thanks, everybody.